Call the member for O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I rise today to support and thank the member for Adelaide on bringing forward this motion on this very important issue, not only to Australia as a whole, but in particular to the miners and the farmers in my electorate of O'Connor. I can't speak on a trade agreement though in this place without mentioning firstly the great Bert Kelly, the modest member, who represented, I think, the seat of. I'm going to have to refer to people more knowledgeable than me about Bert Kelly's seat, but he's certainly a South Australian member who fought for free trade back in the 1970s when it was very unfashionable in this place, and of course also the Labor member Peter Walsh, who was the finance minister in the first Hawke government, who was from Doodlakine near Kellerberrin in my electorate of O'Connor, who was also a great free marketer and fought very hard for those markets to open up for Australian farmers. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, the current EU free trade negotiations will replace a 50-year-old agreement. Now, that agreement was made in a very different time, back in the early 1970s, when the European Union had a butter mountain and an ocean of milk and other agricultural products that they were very much oversupplied in. And so the deal that Australia got at that time was very poor, not just by international standards, but certainly by the standards compared to our neighbours such as New Zealand. So it's a great opportunity, this negotiation, to put those wrongs to rights. And I applaud Minister Farrell for the work that he's done thus far. Just to put some numbers on the benefits to agriculture and certainly the farmers in my electorate. At the moment, we currently sell $4 per head of agricultural produce or food to the European Union. They sell $200 per head of food to Australian people. The average tariff on agricultural produce is 14.2%, and going into specifics, on dairy that's 32%, on sugar that's 27%, and on meat that's 19%. And at the moment, with certainly the West Australian meat market in free fall, due to the current government's policy on live exports, we're seeing animals that are virtually non-commercial, have no commercial value at the moment. That is critically important to West Australian farmers, that we get access to sell more meat into the European Union. If all tariffs were eliminated to the European Union, that would mean an additional $31 billion in GDP to the Australian economy. Now, what do we have in return for the European Union? Well, of course, we have critical minerals, and that's something that West Australia has in abundance. And last week I was very pleased and honoured to introduce the Shadow Minister for Resources, Senator Susan McDonald, to many of the operators in my electorate of Western Australia. We went to the the Kathleen Valley lithium plant, which is nearly up and running, and we also visited the Lynas rare earths plant in Kalgoorlie, which is also nearing completion and moving into the production phase. So these are important elements that will be required for the transition to more renewable energy, but also in a lot of our high-tech gear such as mobile phones, and of course at the moment the Chinese control in excess of 90% of the world's critical minerals. Therefore, Australia has a very strong bargaining position. Now, Deputy Speaker, one of the things that I would urge Minister Farrell to be very cautious of is allowing the European Union to impose their farming practices on our farmers. Now, we've got glyphosate, which is a very, very important chemical to the Australian farming sector. In fact, some may say probably the most important technological advance in agriculture since humans first started to plant crops. And it is critically important that we don't allow the European Union to impose their values in relation to glyphosate on us, also in relation to methane emissions and nitrogen, which we've seen Dutch farmers driven to the wall and basically rebelling against their governments we have to be eternally vigilant that we don't allow the European Union to impose those practices on our hard-working farmers.
Time alert.